All right, let's dive into this one. The Lost Colony of Roanoke. You know the story, right? An entire English colony just vanishes from Roanoke Island.
Sometime after 1587.
Yeah, leaving behind just a handful of clues.
A real head scratcher.
It really is, and the kind of mystery that sparks endless debate and keeps historians up at night, I'm sure.
Definitely. And it's not just the mystery itself. It's the window it gives us into early colonization, the complex interactions between the European settlers and Native American tribes, and, well, frankly, the limits of what we actually know about history.
That's a really good point. So we're not just here to rehash the basic facts. Our listeners are pretty familiar with Roanoke, I think.
Yeah, for sure.
But you've brought some really interesting sources with you today, including historical accounts, video transcripts of modern archaeological digs, and even some research on what daily life was like back in England during the Elizabethan era.
It's a fascinating period.
So let's start by setting the stage.
Hmm.
Late 1500s England. What was driving their push for colonization?
Well, picture this. England's sort of playing catch-up, right? Spain is already pulling incredible wealth from the Americas.
Right. Gold, silver.
Exactly. And England wants a piece of the action. They saw colonization as a path to, well, economic prosperity and power, of course.
Roanoke was one of their first attempts to, plant roots in the New World. A gamble with some pretty high stakes.
It was a gamble. So who were the people who took that gamble? I mean, what kind of person signs up for a one-way ticket to an uncharted land?
That's what I think is so compelling about this story. See, these weren't like, hardened explorers or anything.
Right.
The passenger list for Roanoke actually shows a real cross-section of Elizabethan society. Blacksmiths, farmers, families with kids.
Wow.
They were lured by the promise of land ownership, something that was almost impossible in England's rigid class system, and maybe even, religious freedom.
So they were ordinary folks chasing a dream.
Absolutely. High hopes meeting some harsh realities. Yeah, talk about a reality check. So, leading this group of hopeful settlers was John White, a map maker and artist who was tasked with establishing the colony in 1587.
Right. More of a reluctant leader than a seasoned explorer, which is important to remember.
Good point. Okay, let's talk about John White's journey. He ends up making multiple trips between Roanoke and England, and that's really where things start to get complicated.
That's the turning point, I think.
Yeah.
Initially, the colonists, they settle on Roanoke Island, build houses, try to establish a foothold. But, they quickly realize they need more supplies, more people to make this venture sustainable.
Makes sense.
So White reluctantly returns to England, leaving behind his daughter, Eleanor Dare, who had just given birth to Virginia Dare, the first English child born in the Americas.
Wow. Leaving behind his family. I can't imagine making that decision.
Must have been agonizing.
Yeah.
He expected to return within 6 months, but, well, history loves to throw those curveballs.
And this particular curveball was shaped like a major conflict, wasn't it?
It was.
The Anglo-Spanish rivalry.
Exactly. England and Spain were locked in a power struggle. They were vying for control of the seas and dominance in the New World. Their naval skirmishes, they escalated into full-blown warfare. And White, caught in the middle of this geopolitical turmoil, is stuck in England for 3 years.
3 years. I can't imagine the anxiety he must have felt, not knowing what was happening to his colony, to his family.
Yeah, a period shrouded in uncertainty. All we can do is speculate about what White was thinking, what rumors he might have heard. But one thing is certain. When he finally set sail back to Roanoke in 1590, he's returning to a dramatically altered landscape.
And that's where we hit the heart of the mystery, isn't it? What does White find when he returns to Roanoke after those 3 long years?
A ghost town. The houses are dismantled, the settlements deserted. There's no sign of the colonists, no indication of what became of them.
Chilling.
It's this chilling absence, this void of information, that really ignites our imaginations and fuels the mystery of Roanoke.
I'm getting chills just thinking about it. Imagine sailing across the ocean, desperate to reunite with your family, only to find nothing. But it's not entirely nothing, is it? There was one clue. A single word carved into a post that has haunted historians for centuries. CROATOAN.
Ah, yes, the CROATOAN carving.
This cryptic clue, it's both tantalizing and frustrating.
I know, right?
Before leaving for England, White specifically told them to carve a Maltese cross into a tree if they moved due to distress. If they left willingly, they were to carve the name of their destination.
Smart thinking, bud.
No Maltese cross, just CROATOAN. So they weren't in immediate danger, and they left a message.
Right.
But it's not exactly GPS coordinates, is it?
No, it's not. CROATOAN was the name of a nearby island, now known as Hatteras Island. and also the name of a Native American tribe who lived there. This single word points us in a direction but leaves the rest open to interpretation.
Okay, so we have this cryptic clue pointing toward CROATOAN Island. What does White do with this information? Does he just sail straight there?
He tries to. He and his crew are desperate to investigate, to find any sign of the lost colonists. But, as often happens in this story, nature intervenes.
Oh no.
A powerful storm damages White's ship, forcing them to abandon their search and return to England.
Another setback, another layer of tragedy. White never returns to Roanoke, and the fate of the colonists, including his own daughter and granddaughter, remains shrouded in mystery. Heartbreaking. But the story doesn't end there, does it? I mean, we're talking about a mystery that has captivated people for centuries, right?
You got it. The Lost Colony of Roanoke has become an American legend, a story that continues to resonate and inspire countless theories and investigations. And thankfully, with advancements in archaeology and scientific analysis, we're starting to uncover some fascinating clues that might help us piece together what really happened to those vanished colonists.
Well, that's a great place to pause. You've set the stage beautifully, introducing us to the key players, the historical context, and the enduring mystery that has gripped us for so long. We'll explore the various theories that have emerged over the years and examine the evidence, both historical and archaeological, that supports or refutes those theories when we return. Welcome back. We're picking up our deep dive into the Lost Colony of Roanoke, a story that's, well, equal parts fascinating and frustrating. We left off with John White's heartbreaking return to an empty colony with just the cryptic word CROATOAN carved into a post.
Yeah, that's the only real clue.
It's the only clue.
And it's that lack of concrete answers that has fueled, centuries of speculation.
Centuries, yeah.
Theories abound, ranging from the plausible to, kind of outlandish.
Oh, I'm sure.
Some suggest the colonists integrated peacefully with Native American tribes. Others propose a much more tragic fate. So, where do we even begin?
Yeah, that's a good question. I mean, we've got centuries of theories to unpack here, so.
Right. Well, a good place to start is with the most straightforward explanation, I think. Relocation.
Okay.
The CROATOAN carving could be interpreted as a signpost indicating the colonists moved to CROATOAN Island, now Hatteras Island, to seek refuge or maybe forge alliances with the native tribe of the same name.
Yeah, it's the simplest explanation, but is simple always accurate? What evidence supports this theory?
Well, there's some pretty compelling archaeological evidence from Hatteras Island.
Okay.
In the early 2000s, archaeologists unearthed a small number of European artifacts dating back to the late 16th century, including fragments of pottery, a gunflint, and even a copper ring. These findings suggest at least some colonists may have lived on Hatteras Island after leaving Roanoke.
Okay, so we have a few artifacts.
Right.
But we're talking about over 100 colonists, families with children. A few scattered items doesn't exactly scream thriving community, does it?
You're right, it doesn't. And that's one of the, main criticisms of the relocation theory. If a significant number of colonists integrated with the CROATOAN tribe, you'd expect to see more substantial evidence.
Right.
Larger settlements, more European-style tools and structures, and perhaps even, documented interactions between the colonists and the native populations.
Right.
But that kind of evidence, well, it remains elusive.
Yeah. So what are the alternative explanations? Did the colonists attempt a risky voyage back to England and perish at sea?
That's another theory. But it faces some pretty significant challenges. I mean, the colonists were ill-equipped for such a long and perilous journey. Plus, as you pointed out earlier, if they were desperate enough to sail back to England, wouldn't they have left, a more explicit message?
It seems like they would have left a detailed account of their plans or some indication of their, dire circumstances.
Exactly. And there's no record of any shipwrecks from that period that could account for the disappearance of an entire colony. So, while we can't entirely rule out a failed sea voyage, it doesn't seem like a most likely scenario.
So relocation and a doomed return to England both have their weaknesses. What about the possibility of a darker fate? Could the colonists have fallen victim to disease, starvation, or conflict with neighboring tribes?
Those are certainly possibilities, and they would explain the lack of substantial physical remains.
Right.
Disease outbreaks were common among early colonists, and starvation was a constant threat, especially during the first few years of settlement.
And we know from historical accounts that the relationship between the colonists and the local Native American tribes was, at times tense and volatile.
For sure.
Is there any evidence to suggest violence might have played a role in the colony's disappearance?
There's no definitive proof, but there are, hints. Some historians point to the fact that the colonists' houses were dismantled rather than burned, which could indicate, a planned departure rather than a chaotic attack. However, the construction of a fortified structure within the settlement suggests they may have felt threatened at some point.
So it's a puzzle with pieces that don't quite fit neatly together.
Yeah, that's one way to put it.
Okay, so we've explored relocation, a potential sea voyage gone wrong, and the possibility of some kind of tragedy. Are there any other theories out there that have gained traction?
Well, there's one more. It's a bit more speculative, but I think it's still worth considering.
Okay.
Some researchers believe the colonists might have been absorbed into a Native American tribe. Not through peaceful integration, though, but through captivity.
Captivity. That's a dramatic twist. What evidence supports that theory?
It's largely based on conjecture and circumstantial evidence. I mean, we know tensions existed between the colonists and some Native American tribes.
Yeah.
And some historians speculate that those tensions might have escalated into conflict and ultimately the capture of the colonists.
But if they were taken captive, wouldn't there be some record, like from the captor's perspective, oral histories, artifacts, something to corroborate this theory?
Well, you'd think so. And that's the biggest challenge facing this theory. We have very few accounts from the Native American perspective during this period. And piecing together events from such a distant past is often like trying to solve a puzzle with half the pieces missing.
It feels like we're hitting the limits of what we can know for sure. But that doesn't mean we stop searching for answers, right?
Right. New technologies are constantly emerging that can help us re-examine the existing evidence.
Yeah, I've heard about some of that.
Ground-penetrating radar, DNA analysis, the study of tree rings, these can all provide valuable insights that were just unavailable to, previous generations of researchers.
It's exciting to think about what we might still uncover. But for now, we're left with a fascinating array of theories, each with its strengths and weaknesses.
Yeah.
Where does that leave us in our understanding of what happened to the Lost Colony?
It leaves us with the understanding that, well, history is rarely neat and tidy.
That's true.
Sometimes the most compelling stories are the ones with those unresolved endings. And even though we may never definitively solve the mystery of Roanoke, the process of exploring these theories, of sifting through the evidence, brings us closer to understanding the complexities of early colonial life and the enduring power of unanswered questions.
It's a reminder that history isn't just about facts and dates. It's about interpretation, about grappling with ambiguity and, acknowledging the limits of what we can know.
And in the case of Roanoke, it's about recognizing those human stories at the heart of this mystery. The hopes and dreams of those who set sail for a new world.
Yeah.
The anxieties and uncertainties they faced. And the enduring legacy they left behind.
Well said. And that legacy extends beyond the mystery itself. In our final part, we'll explore the lasting impact of the Lost Colony of Roanoke, how it continues to inspire art, literature, and even our own sense of wonder about the past. Stay with us.
Welcome back to our deep dive into the Lost Colony. We've explored the historical context, we've examined the evidence, weighed the various theories, but as we reach the end of our journey, I'm left with this question. Why does this mystery, centuries old, still hold such power over us?
It's a question that, speaks to the heart of what makes history so compelling. The Lost Colony, it's more than just a historical puzzle. It's a blank canvas.
A blank canvas.
Yeah, one that we, project our own curiosities and fears and hopes onto.
It's like we're drawn to the unknown, to the possibility of uncovering some secret that's been hidden for centuries, and maybe, just maybe, gaining a deeper understanding of ourselves in the process. Exactly. The lost colonists become almost mythical figures. Their fates intertwined with our own sense of adventure and the, fragility of human endeavors. It makes us wonder, what if?
Right.
What might have been? Imagine those final undocumented chapters in their lives.
And I think that's where the real power of the story lies. It forces us to confront those gaps in our knowledge, the limits of what we can definitively know about the past. It challenges us to be comfortable with ambiguity, to accept that some questions might never have those clear-cut answers.
And perhaps that's a valuable lesson in itself. I mean, think about it. In a world that's, saturated with information, we're so conditioned to expect immediate answers, easy solutions. But the Lost Colony reminds us that some mysteries are meant to linger, to spark debate, and inspire new avenues of inquiry.
Yeah, I like that. It's a powerful reminder that history isn't static, it's an ongoing conversation, a process of discovery and reinterpretation. Every new piece of evidence, every fresh perspective has the potential to reshape our understanding of the past.
And that's why the Lost Colony continues to fascinate us, I think. It's a story that refuses to be confined to the history books. It spills over into our art, our literature, our popular culture. It reminds us that the past is never truly lost. It's woven into the fabric of our present.
You know, it's funny, as we've been discussing this, I've been thinking about the legacy of the Lost Colony. It's not just about the colonists themselves, it's about that enduring impact their disappearance has had on how we view history, how we approach the unknown.
Yeah, it's a story that, well, it invites us to embrace the power of speculation, to acknowledge the role of imagination in shaping our understanding of the past. And it reminds us that sometimes the most compelling stories are the ones that leave us with more questions than answers.
I think that's a beautiful way to put it. The Lost Colony, in its absence, has created a space for those endless possibilities, a canvas onto which we project our own hopes and fears, our fascination with the unknown.
And in doing so, it challenges us to, become active participants in that ongoing dialogue of history, to question assumptions, to seek new perspectives, and to, embrace the beauty of unanswered questions.
As we wrap up this deep dive, I'm struck by the enduring power of this mystery. It's a story that transcends time. It reminds us of the fragility of human life, the complexities of our past, and the enduring allure of the unknown.
And perhaps that's the greatest gift the Lost Colony offers us, a renewed sense of wonder, a reminder that the past is never truly settled, and an invitation to continue exploring those uncharted territories of history, both, literally and figuratively.
So to you, listening, as you go about your day, remember the mystery of those vanished colonists. Let their story inspire your own curiosity, your own pursuit of knowledge and understanding. Who knows? Maybe you'll stumble upon a clue that unlocks a new chapter in this enduring saga. Keep exploring, keep questioning, and keep that spirit of discovery alive.